Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey and Daytona, Florida. So this is probably the product release I'm most excited about for 2025. Been waiting on this for 2 to 3 years. It is the Soundstream factory replacement head unit for the Polaris Slingshot. I was talking to Ronnie about this a few years ago, and I told him there was really a need for this in the market. They just released the head unit for the Harley Davidson, did really well with it. Ronnie told me that he didn't think that they would be able to sell enough units to justify the investment. So I said, okay, you know the numbers better than I, so we didn't discuss it again. Then the Harley head unit did so well, and they came out with a few different versions of it, and he called me and we circled back to discuss the viability of the project for the Slingshot. I explained to Ronnie that there is literally nobody in that space. The Slingshot has become very popular since it was released in 2014, 2015, and the only weatherproof, mind you, weatherproof options that clients had was going to buy the command unit from the dealer, which was about $3,000. It's not even the price that was the issue. Dealerships could not keep up with the demand because here at NVS Audio we refuse to put a non-weatherproof car radio in a Slingshot, so we'll only do it if the customer insists. Every time that we've done it, after a season or two, water gets in the radio and destroys it. The Sony head unit was working the best because it has sealed buttons on the face, but what people don't realize about the Slingshot is that water comes in through the engine compartment. The radio opening is not protected, is not sealed off from the engine compartment, so you can do whatever you want to seal the face off. Water would literally come in from the engine compartment and fill the body of the radio with water. We've seen a ton of them get destroyed this way. So in the factory, when the factory does it, they literally do it just like this. It's a sealed case. This the screen is the display unit, and then the amplifier is separate, mounted in the dash, and it's also weatherproof. So went back and forth, ton of emails, ton of phone calls, and we have what you see here. Ronnie and his team, we started the relationship when back when Ronnie worked at Rockford Fosgate. Then we stayed in contact over the years, and when the Harley radio was in development, ton of emails back and forth. They got me an early pre-production sample. We tested it. The radio did really well, and it was no different with the Slingshot unit. I personally own 2 Slingshots, so I told him anything that he needed to test, I could take a measurement on both of the trikes. We took measurements. These guys worked tirelessly doing research, seeing what fits, and they came out with a solution I think is awesome. It covers basically all the years, and with just a simple change of a faceplate. So obviously this would be the older generation, and this would be the 2020 and up. As you can see, the fit and finish is beautiful. This actually comes in the kit. So does this. So when you're doing an older one, you remove the bucket from the Slingshot. You lock the unit in place, you bolt it in place. Then, just like factory, the trim bezel bolts on with 2 screws and clips in on the bottom. They made this out of aluminum. It's metal, it's not plastic. And when I tell you I was blown away by the fit and finish, I really like the way this looks and the way it works. It's got a cool boot up screen. Even the back casing is solid. This thing's heavy, it feels like something. They did all waterproof plugs on the back, so if you're not using any of those features, you just keep them capped off like this, and it keeps water from getting into the connections. I tested it on my 18, and when I go back to Jersey, I'm gonna make a second video, and I'll test it on the 2020 and up. Unit works really good. I like the software. The interface is pretty quick. There was one issue I had with the unit. They emailed me over a software update and it took care of it immediately. The RCAs were not outputting There's a setting, and I'll show you in the video, where you go and you turn them on. As soon as I did the software update, setting was there, turned it on, and I was able to test. We got 8 volts, 7.5 volts out of the RCAs unclipped. That's insane. It's more than we would ever use, but if you dial it back, if you're using a unit that doesn't like more than 4 volts in, you can go into the media volumes and dial them all the way back, and it'll knock these 7 volts down to a usable 4 volts. Now, if you're running a bunch of amplifiers, let's say you're running 3 or 4 4-channel amplifiers with no DSP, then 8 volts, you can get 2 volts per amplifier. It's pretty nuts, pretty insane. So software works really, really good. It's got wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, connection with Seamless. And the fit and finish is really nice. Ronnie and his team did a great job. And well, I don't know what else to say. It's so they're going to release 2 versions of the unit. This unit will be available in a couple of weeks. So we are in the last 2 days of August. This unit will be available in September. So in 2 weeks, these will start shipping. If you guys are dealers, get your orders in now if you want them in the first round. The initial one, they're going to do the same thing that they did with the Harley head units, where the basic unit comes out first, and then the V2 version comes out second, which has iData-Link Maestro and will interface with the ride command. So anybody has a 2020 and up and doesn't want to lose their ride command, the V2 version of this, so the version 1 is going to be $1,000, version 2 is going to be $1,600. Version 2 will allow you to keep your ride command and all your factory features. Version 1 will plug into the ride command connectors, but you will not have the ride command features. You will only have the Android Auto and the CarPlay features on the unit, just like the Harley versions. Really, really impressed with the unit. Really, these guys knocked it out of the park. Thank you guys. Everything I asked for, they put into the unit. I'm going to explain all the features in the video. This is part 1 of the video. I'm going to make part 2 once we get the production version, and I get to install it in a newer one. It is the only unit on the market that retains factory thumb controls. So Jack from Underground Auto Styling did a deal with PAC, and then he came out with the first thumb control unit for anyone that is changing the radio to an aftermarket Pioneer, Sony, what have you. This is the first unit that will be plug and play and retain the thumb controls without going to an aftermarket non-waterproof radio. So all the competition guys that trailer their slingshots, aftermarket radios, no big deal for them because none of the speakers are waterproof on their Sling, and their slingshots never get wet. For all you rider clients, this is the unit for you guys, because when you buy the slingshot from the dealer, you can leave it outside, it can get rained on, and with the factory unit, you don't have any issues because the unit's sealed and it's designed. I've seen people hose off their interiors when the vehicle is completely factory. With this unit, you'll be able to treat the slingshot the way you would if it was factory. So you'll see in the video, I hosed this thing down. I got it really, really wet, and then I did all my tests. So I soaked the unit first, then every test that you saw me do was after the unit, because I wanted to make sure that there was no water intrusion, no electrical gremlins after the unit got wet. So check out the video. Thank you guys from Soundstream. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Brandon. You guys were amazing. Check it out. All right, let's plug it up and see if it works. Good. See how quick CarPlay reconnected to my phone? Hey, we're good. Everything works. It passed the water test. Okay, it ships with 3 harnesses. First harness is for the 18, 19, and PMX. So this is for the older bikes. It's going to do reverse and the emergency brake, and it's going to give you the RCA for video from the factory reverse camera. Then 18 through 24, this is with the Rockford Fosgate PMX audio system in it. So this is the one that comes with the small screen radio. And then this is the big boy. This is the 18 through 24 with the ride command. So it retains your steering wheel control buttons. It's plug and play. So the bike that we're working on now is going to require this one. Not this one, not this one. The bike we're working on is the 2019, and it's got the factory radio in it, but it does not have thumb controls. This model Slingshot, we use the basic harness that comes in the kit, which is this one. So if you look at the labels, we have a transmission label. So this one goes straight down under the radio on top of the transmission. You're going to disconnect that plug and go in and out. This gives you a reverse trigger for your backup camera. Then you're going to do the brake hookup. So you go down, this hooks up to the emergency brake. So you're going to disconnect the plug, go in, and then go back out. Then on this side of the harness, it plugs into the radio harness. We'll get to that part of the video later. Here is the USB. So you're going to replace the factory USB. You're going to pull this one out. You're going to enlarge the hole. You're going to mount this USB here. It's got a waterproof cover for it. This plugs into the back of the unit. So when you go to the back of the unit, you remove this little rubber cover and it plugs in here. If you're not going to plug this in, make sure you keep the rubber cover on. This keeps water from getting into any of these connections. The back of the Slingshot radio opening is open to the engine compartment, so water splashes in and literally hits the back of the radio. So any of these that you're not going to use, whether you don't use the RCA, you don't use the backup camera, you're going to have to leave the rubber plugs in or you will damage the unit. So if you don't want your USB cable hanging out of the glove box, you can mount the USB here, you can mount the USB here, you can mount it wherever you want as long as you're within the length of the cable for the radio. So I think the smartest point to put it would be either here or here. That way it still reaches, and that way you don't have the cable coming out of the glove box. I'm going to go ahead and use my cable out of the glove box, so this is going to go here and plug in here. Now, you're going to need the T-harness. The T-harness goes in between the other side of this plug, gives you this connector to go into the radio, and then it lets you plug in the peripherals like we showed you. On this trim level, on the 2018, 2019, this just plugs directly into the back of the unit. No T-harness needed. You plug it in, turn the key on, and the screen's going to power up. So this install is pretty much done. After we go through the initial setup, I'll show you that in a different part of the video. So to get audio playing on this bike, we literally just have to plug in the RCAs and connect them to our DSP. So we're going to do that part now so we can get audio immediately. Then we'll go through the setup menu. This is what the RCA harness looks like. It literally plugs in right here where it says RCAs. Pop this off. Just like that. You have front, rear, and sub. Now we already have a Hertz DSP installed in this bike, so we're going to disconnect these RCAs. These RCAs go to the amp. We're going to disconnect the input and go RCA directly into here. So with Hertz, there's another harness that gets plugged in and gives us our low level. Right now we're using a high level. Fit and finish is beautiful. Install is 100% complete.